I'm going to drink coffee.
Hello, welcome, Naomi.
Hello.
We have to get the name right. Can we just clear
do.
this up, because we already had a discussion about your name. I'm obviously like Marilyn, but it's spelt Marylin. Look, mum, South American, it's pronounced Marilyn, which I get, but growing up, I'm like, in school, you fucking know me, teacher, and yet you still say Marilyn. There's no hyphen.
Yeah.
It's just Marilyn.
Yeah. Oh, Mary Lynn.
Yeah. Ooh.
Sounds like you need curly pigtails.
I know.
And a pinafore.
Yeah.
It's Mary Lynn. Yeah, I get Naomi.
Yeah. No.
Way too much. And I'm just not cool with that. So everybody out there listening, no. If you know Naomi, there's no I at the start. It's Naomi.
Naomi. And it's not Nene either. We've distinguished.
And it is not Nene. It is never Nene. Unless I introduce myself as Nene, which I never will.
It's like my daughter, her name's Penelope. And people just are like, oh, hey, Penny. No, it's not Penny. It's P or Penelope. Oh, why would you want P? Like P? I'm like, no, like sweet pea. Yeah.
That's no, see, I'd never do that. I'd never do. It's funny though, because our son's name's Isaac. And that was like my husband wanted to call him Isaac. And in my head, I was like, Isaac. Okay. It's cool. I'll just call him Zach. I like Zach. That's cool.
I like
He's
Isaac.
never been Zach. He's never been Zach, not once.
Yeah.
He's Isaac. And if you call him Zach, I will take you out. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Just, certain names, certain people.
I know. Well, now that we know who you are and how to say your name.
Yeah, hey, everybody.
Hey. Thank you for coming on. I have been following you for a while and I'm always mesmerized by your photos. They're not normal. Let's just say they are sensational.
Maybe that should be my headline.
Yeah, not normal food.
She's not normal.
I don't think people understand how much goes into styling a food photo. And I'm not a professional by any fucking means, but every day is a practice day for me. And that's all that I can measure myself. But wow, your photos they make me salivate. Like, honestly, how long have you been doing it for?
Not that long.
Really?
Yeah, not that long. Full-time 5 years. So long story short, I ran the office of my husband's construction company.
Yeah. Oh, he's a tradie too. Oh, you're a tradie's wife.
I'm a tradie's wife.
We're the best women.
Yeah, we're the ones that run the business, let's be clear.
Yeah, the bookkeeping.
So I did that for decades. And then, kids grew up and left school and I wasn't doing the bus runs or the mum stuff. And I had such a raging case of empty nest syndrome that I didn't know at the time. Do you know what I mean? I was just like spending hours on Facebook for and I saw this, just an online camera course. I had the fancy ass camera, did not know how to use it, used it in manual all the time, and decided that I was going to be a famous landscape photographer because I live in Tasmania. It's beautiful. Gorgeous. You can't take a bad photo here. So I did this camera course and that was cool. And then I did like the advanced version of the course. And one of the assignments, if you like, was all about backgrounds. So, you had to go and find a background and blah, blah, blah. So I got just a bit of something from my husband's workshop and I made these little fruit tarts. And it wasn't about the bloody tarts. It was supposed to be about the background. And I loved that photo so bad. It was my Facebook cover photo. It was, and look, I look at it now and I'm like, oh, Jesus.
No,
so much wrong with that photo.
My friend all the time because she's a baker and we always send the before and afters, like, and literally it's like from like a few months ago. It's not even like 5 years ago. And I'm like, free, that's embarrassing. Yep. But
I can't believe that's out there, but it's good for it to be out there.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
And then did you realize, like, were you always a cook? Like, were you always quite creative in the kitchen? Yeah.
Well, not always. I actually I have a really clear memory. I did not know how to cook. I didn't grow up learning how to cook. I didn't grow up in a foodie family. And that's all I'm going to say in case my mum ever listens to this. Hey, Mum.
Hey, Mum.
Rissoles. So I can remember, because I met my quite young, him coming home one day and I had made him dinner and I was just, check me out, feeding my working man his meat and 3 veg. And do you know what it was? It was tinned. It was called camp stew. I don't know what it is. Like the tinned stew. No. Oh, it gets better. Yeah. You might want to mute me. I don't know. No. Those tin baby potatoes? And I
No.
can't remember if it was tinned peas and corn, or I think it was tinned peas and carrots. But I don't remember seasoning anything, or I literally think I just put it in saucepans, and I don't even know. But I was so fucking full of myself. I was like, check it out, I've got this partner thing nailed. I must have been
Eat it. Did he eat it?
Yeah.
What did he say?
You know, I
was hungry.
No, he probably went and threw up afterwards. I don't know. He probably already had a pie on the way home because he knew what he was coming home to.
Does he give you any feedback or advice, like now, like with your food? Is he quite?
Look, I've turned them all into food snobs.
Well, this is literally what I was going to roll into, because my husband's Italian, so naturally grew up with good food anyway. But all of a sudden, like sometimes I'll cook it's a good meal, but he'd be like, I'm like, what? Are you fucking serious? I'm like, oh hell no. I'm like, right, tomorrow is fucking, toast.
Yep. Make it yourself day.
No, I'm just getting feedback. I'm like, that ain't feedback.
Did I ask for feedback?
But they do. They become, because now they're having, because obviously we're recipe developing all the time, and the food's great. I mean, we critique it. We're like, next time I could do with a bit more herbs, but still bloody good, right?
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, like, their expectation is up here. It's even so bad that when you go out,
it's no good.
How bad is that become?
And I sit there sometimes, I don't know if you do this, but I sit there sometimes and I look at what I'm serving and I'm like, do you people realize that normal people don't eat like this on a special occasion? Like your dinner every night is
Michelin star. Yep.
Not every night, let's be honest. There are
most
some nights where it's just spag bowl, but
but still.
But they've got it. So my son works with my husband now, and their workshop's on the same property because we have a property. And I'll literally be recipe developing, and I'll run over there with a spoonful or something, and I'll be like, "Taste it, tell me." And do you get? Yep. And they'll be like, "Oh, look, I like the way it finishes on the palate." These two tradies out there in the workshop.
Chili? I'm like, taste the chili. I'm like, a bit more. And he's like, now.
Something. It needs something. Like, does it need a bit of cumin? What does it need? And they're just looking at me going,
what the fuck's cumin?
I don't know. But yeah. So yeah, it's always funny when somebody's working over there. We've got, subbies and things like that will come, because I'll either come over there and start feeding them stuff randomly and they don't know what's going on, or I'll be over there going, so, hey, like, do you like salmon? Because I've just made this giant salmon. Do you want to take it home for your wife tonight? And they're like,
give her a break. No, because we're going to get divorced. Okay. Because my wife's going to be like, hey, who's this lady that can cook amazing food? Putting me to shame. No, it's not like that at all. But honestly, I do that as well with my neighbors. I'm like, do you want like here? Or I'm making things that I could kind of double batch or freeze and stuff like that. But honestly, it's
so much food.
It's good. There's no better feeling than I think the best feeling is when you make something and someone's like, oh, I'm not into broccoli, and then they're into broccoli.
Yeah. Yep.
That's a good hit. That for me, it's like
I love it. People are like, I don't really like that. But have you tried mine? Just, maybe I'm just mean. And they're like, yummy.
No. No one goes for seconds if they don't like it. That's how I gauge it.
Oh, everybody, yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I don't know, are you sweet or savoury?
I'm definitely savoury over sweet.
Yeah, me too.
Definitely.
I love
proper stuff.
Weirdly enough, I love cooking sweet. I love cooking a dessert. I love giving people desserts.
Yeah, I like taking dessert over to people's house, or a good side dish that's not like your regular. I take like a
fruit cake. Like I'll bake something that they can chuck in the freezer or have the next day, or
Yes. I think
a little treat.
My kids are still quite little, so I'm kind of I don't have that me time at the moment to really enjoy baking. But I do enjoy it, but predominantly savory, but also really nailing, like for me, I'm like the S girl. I like the sweet, the spicy, the salty, sour. Like I feel like a good meal for me kind of has to hit those spots.
All those things. I'm completely untrained.
Same.
I like to do weird stuff. like I like to find the weird in the food. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
I had
I know what you mean.
well, not weird. I made Vegemite caramel.
Oh, yeah, see. But someone told me.
But it was like people have salted miso caramel and it's fucking amazing. And I'm like, how is Vegemite that different? As long as you use it carefully. And it was,
need that recipe.
Good.
Need it. Share it.
It's on my blog.
It's on my blog.
It's on my blog. But I had a heap of beetroot because I've got a veggie garden.
Yeah.
And I had a heap of beetroot and like I do this wicked beetroot and pepperberry relish that we have throughout the year on my blog. That we have with like goat's cheese, and it's so good. And pickled beetroot. And I wanted something else. So I roasted this beetroot and I just had this moment where I was like, I bet beetroot and blackberry would taste really good together.
Never would have thought, but yes. Do you have the
Wait, it gets better. I curate it.
Yeah.
In this, the flavour.
Yeah.
The flavour Bible thing, yes.
Yeah.
I'm looking for it on my shelves, but
I'm gonna get it. Yeah, see if it's in there.
Beetroot, blackberry, and a spoonful of honey. And I pureed it and I put it through a sieve, and fuck me.
That sounds amazing.
Seriously. Yeah. And that happens sometimes. I do that weird thing like, ooh, I bet that would be good. So I try it, and sometimes it works.
I love that experiment. I did my parents have a veggie patch, and so they gave beetroot as well. I roasted them, blitzed it with an egg, and made a beetroot gnocchi, topped it with I made like a lemon sauce, thyme, walnuts, watercress, and goat's cheese. That's going to go in my book.
Can't beat beetroot and goat's cheese.
Can't.
Just can't. It's like they have to go together.
But you know what's really funny? I was speaking to a friend, speaking of weird flavors, and she was like, "Oh, I love your gnocchi." She's like, "Can you do a dessert one, like a ricotta?" And I'm like, freaking sensational. I've got to do it now. Got to do it.
Yeah, now,
really? like tomorrow.
Now,
literally. Well, now. See ya.
You got to yum. Ooh. So, what flavors would you put with it?
I don't know yet. I haven't gone that far, but I'm thinking more just a simple. Spices. I don't know, like Nutella-y vibe thing, but then with a bunch of fresh roasted nuts. But then it needs a fruit with it. It needs something to cut what would you do? See, this is how our minds think.
Creamy hazelnuts. You got to have a little bit of cinnamon in there.
Yeah.
Or even just a tiny little. Okay.
What about cardamom?
Sorry.
Cardamom?
Yeah, I was going to say just a tiny little bit of cardamom, or even a tinier little bit of star anise, just for that back flavour with blackberry. Star anise and blackberry for some reason.
I was going to say orange.
I don't know.
Orange zest. See?
So chocolate. I wouldn't do orange with chocolate.
Yeah,
I know other people love it. Okay, you do it then.
Yeah.
You do you, boo.
That's it. See what I mean? Everyone's okay. So you obviously do a lot of work for, magazines and other companies, which I love your work.
Yeah, just walk into your local Woolworths right now. I'm on the front cover of 2 different magazines. Not me. Like I love to go, I'm on the cover of magazines, and people go, what? I go, not me. My photos. That's better.
How did that, so you're obviously go back, you're learning, you're improving, then you started your own little food blog, and it was more around.
I was doing just, as we do, posting our food photos on Instagram. And this was when I was eating a lot of like low carb type foods, and so I think it was a photo of some tarts or something, and a low carb blogger contacted me, and she was like, hey, like, are you interested in developing some recipes for me, like developing and photographing the recipes? And I'm just like, she's like, I'll pay you, of course. And I was literally like, holy shit, people do that? Yeah. It never occurred to me that when you buy a cookbook, those photos come from somewhere. Do you know what I mean? Like, until you think of it as a profession, you don't think of it as. So I started doing that, and I did a heap of work and then it's kind of rolled from there. And I was working for so many different bloggers, and that was great, but it's very time consuming. And I wanted to do stuff for me, and so it was great experience, because you kind of I had to hit the ground running. I had no choice.
Oh,
So
and you're getting paid to just keep
learn.
practicing and learn. And that's what, if anyone's
Definitely.
listening that is, a foodie that wants to kind of aspire to making it somewhat of a career, then it just goes to show that when you share your work and your passion, you keep at it, you don't know. And you don't know who's watching, following sometimes. And even though, like, personal experience, like, sometimes you feel like Adele in the back bushes singing hello, like, like anyone there.
And I think it's a really important thing, and I talk about this a lot. I honestly think, and I'm going to go across what everybody else says, I know it sounds wanky, and you've got to be true to you.
Absolutely.
Find your style. Find, if you're really into vegan food, that's awesome. If you're really into dark and moody photography, that's awesome. It doesn't matter if everyone else that you follow is doing light and bright, or it doesn't. You find what lights that fire. And you would know. There's nothing like that. It's that feeling, in that little flutter in your chest when you nail a recipe, or you pull off a photo and you're like, fuck yeah.
Oh, I
look what I can't believe I just did that, and I can't wait to show the whole world. It's a great feeling. You're not going to get that if you're making yourself do shit every day that you hate.
I agree.
Yeah.
And, then that just goes to show, like, you can just get into a vicious cycle of just, consumption and looking at what other people do. And I think for the average person, which I'm one of them, to be honest, even though I know people are like, oh, you've got a podcast. No, I'm here for the average person because I have little kids. I need to cook real food, things that we do eat. Yes, I make it look nice because I want, to inspire you to cook it, but most of the time when I serve it to my children, it is a bowl of slap.
What I think for me, one of the things that I enjoyed most about moving out of a lot of the blogger type stuff and into the magazine work that I do now is that I'm cooking for the average person.
Exactly.
And I love that. You can take, like you do, your food might be average for your kids or whatever you want to say, but it looks amazing and it tastes amazing. You can do that. Some people we forget what it's like to need that bit of guidance.
I think so too. And I think the ultimate thing, I don't know about you, and I'm asking this question indirectly, but when I'm kind of thinking of a recipe, I'm not really, I kind of want to just spark something within someone, because I know what it's like to be like, I have no idea what to cook. My children don't X, Y, Z. But just familiarizing people with different flavor combos that will give them an idea or a method or a style or a tip or a trick to be like,
absolutely.
Oh, hey, I've got my own spaghetti bolognese, but I never thought to make it in the slow cooker because it's always watery or bland. Yeah.
Absolutely.
What is when you are developing, or when you are kind of working, and this is when someone gives you probably full reins, right? Say, I want chocolate cake, or I want a pasta recipe. What's your kind of thought process to create that recipe for them? Is it more targeted towards their audience, or more like, do you have your own step thing that you?
Let's say I've got completely free range, because a lot of my clients will obviously go, we need so many recipes based on this, blah, blah. But so and a lot of my clients do give me free range, which is awesome. So the first thing, like for a magazine, I'd be looking at when the magazine's coming out. So the work that I do now, today, won't be in a magazine for another 6 months. So a beautiful, lush, autumn, type dish, it's not going to play well in spring or summer. So that's one of the first things that I look at. And then I go, okay, so it's a pasta dish. What does everybody else do? Because I don't want to do what everybody else does. But also for a magazine particularly, I don't want to go so weird that everybody's like, I'm not going to cook that, even though it's probably going to taste freaking amazing, and they should. So, and I'll just step my way into it. Go, what kind of ingredients do I want? What kind of ingredients would be in season when this dish is out? So a lot of the time, I'm happy to get ingredients that are out. Sometimes you can't, but these days,
most of the times you can. Yeah.
I try and look at that stuff, because I don't want to have a recipe come out that people are like, oh my God, that looks amazing. Oh, but it uses, I don't know, what's something that's only out,
like
fresh figs.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and you're in Tasmania. We never get fresh figs anyway, but you know, and then I'll just work from there. You know, once I've got my flavors and I know kind of what it is I'm doing, I'll just start looking around. What? Look at you. That was professional. Mine's on silent.
I have mine on do not disturb. What's going on?
Sure you do. Sure you do. It's because it's an apple. That's why.
Don't go there. Don't go
there. Do you shoot with a Canon or a Nikon?
Oh, I'm definitely Nikon. Yeah. No, I've got a Canon. No, I've got a Canon, but
it's better than the Nikon. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's just get it.
I've got a Canon.
I'm a Canon girl, obviously.
Yeah, but it's true.
But so it's just a process. Yeah.
It's always that thought, and I'm starting to like really think about that nostalgia as well with meals, things that people probably used to have growing up and never thought to make. Like, I don't know, just things that, or introducing different bases that you could then build up on. I love that.
But I think as well, look, with the nostalgia thing, and I say this because I saw a parent, let's be clear, I'm on TikTok. I don't do TikTok. I just like to look at other people's TikToks. But apparently it was one of those viral TikTok-y food things. Have you seen like the phyllo pastry thing?
Which one?
It's like the ruffled up phyllo pastry
with the custard.
Apparently, you're like, yeah, of course. Never freaking heard of it.
It's good.
And all these Mediterranean people, they're going, no, this is what we grew up on. And I think that's it. I think what we grew up on might not be what you grew up on, might not be what the next person grew up on. And what you grew up on that you're like, this is just that boring thing that Nana used to make. I'm like, holy shit, I've never heard of that. That's amazing. Exactly. I think it's important to share this stuff. Not everything has to be trendy.
I agree. And I think that's predominantly Greek. Oh my God. I think
it's Greek.
It is Greek.
Shout out to Sydney Food Sisters.
Yeah. And I think the Cypriots are going to come at me too.
Yeah. That's why I said Mediterranean.
Just cover all. But
over there.
We use it too. My dad's side, the Middle East. But yeah, they make their own phyllo.
Have you got a good recipe?
No, I won't say that I don't have it personally. I haven't really. It's not something that my mum used to always make. It was more like other family members. So I don't know, with the Wald household, it's like she was always
somebody else does it.
Stuff. Yeah. She was really good at my mum was never the dessert lady. Like she maybe had 2 really good desserts that were like 3 hours to fucking stand at the stovetop and make. But
oh really? That's not my kind of dessert.
No. I don't know. No, but it's those kind of dishes that everyone's losing touch because it's all the time consuming stuff, but there's no other way to do it. Like I try to think of cheats versions, it's just not the same. So I'm like, something just has to be left.
And a place for that. You know, I think, oh God, I'm going to sound so old now. Yeah. We're all in such a rush all the time. We pack so much into our lives and then we wonder why we're exhausted or we're overwhelmed burnt out. How often do people stop and go, I'm going to spend 2 hours in the kitchen just pottering, just stirring that pot on the stove, and and I get that that's my happy place. Other people they're like, no, I want to go for a 2-hour mountain bike ride up and down hills. That's my happy place. And I'm like, have you been to my kitchen?
Yeah.
It's really yummy in there and it doesn't involve my butt hurting at the end. So for me, that's relaxing. And I honestly think that if more people just took that time to slow down and create, there's real joy in creating something for other people as well. That whole, it's in my cookbook. Food doesn't just nourish our bodies, it nurtures our souls. You know what I mean? It's those memories and those, somebody died, you take food. Somebody has a baby, you take food. Like,
it's a love language.
All of those, it's my love language. Like, if I don't know what to say to you, I will bring you food. Even if I've got to drop it on your doorstep and run. Like, I feel like we're losing touch with that a lot, and I think that's sad.
It's because we're not we're quote unquote time poor, and we're losing that human connection. And I think Rona did that.
Are we time poor?
Yeah, it's but that's
we've got all of this stuff now that makes everything quicker. You go back 50 years. I reckon they probably had less time than we do now. Absolutely. How many hours a day does he have? And I'm not, I sound like I'm on a real soapbox. I don't mean it that way, but I think saying that we're time poor can be, I think we're uneducated. And I don't mean that in a cruel way, but the kind of stuff that we learned in home ec, whatever they call it these days at school, I don't know if they teach it like that anymore. The basics of, budgeting and setting a menu and working stuff out. Most kids leaving home now don't know how to do that stuff. They've got 14 apps on their phone for Uber Eats or whatever, but they don't know how to make a basic, savoury mince that you can then turn into 5 other things. If you're broke, buy a big ass pack of mince and you can eat that all week in 7 different ways. They don't know how to do that.
No, they don't. I think that, maybe because, with all devices and stuff, that they're not really learning things in the kitchen and at home. And I wish that they would do more of that in school, and actually
I do too.
Get that real.
I mean, I'll be completely honest, and I was only joking about this with a friend this morning. I was not that mum who had her kids in the kitchen cooking with her.
Yeah.
Ever. I was that mum that was like, we're going to decorate Christmas biscuits together. They're beautiful little Christmas trees with the royal icing, and they've got a pretty little touch that like that. No, don't. Tell you what, you go see Daddy, and you come back in, and you can help me put the stars on top. No, not like that. Don't put it. It's crooked. For God's sake, just let me do it, okay? And we'll just say that you helped me make them. That'd be good, wouldn't it? Yeah, I was not. I just wasn't. I'm a bit of a control freak.
Yeah, now I'm like that too. But it's just. And then
it's so much mess. There's already mess to clean up,
Yeah, and a mountain of washing and a mountain of, that it's again that thing where we're like, what next? And even if we take things off our list, where defeats the purpose.
There's always something else.
Add something to it rather than just leaving it off. I have to say though, I feel like sometimes I'm not really pottering. I'm a lot better with my boundaries now, but it's something that I'm like, do I need to always have the camera there filming what I'm making? No, I don't, but I think then you kind of go, well, like, it doesn't also have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be a perfect thing, but I always love to help people, love to give them an idea, love to inspire them. Yeah. How do you feel like you get organized for the week? Is it, I mean, I know that your children, they're older and stuff, so it's not like you have to work around at school.
I know this
dietary
might come as a shock. I'm an obsessively organized control freak.
Yeah, same. Shock.
I have a very specific routine. So Saturdays generally is just like my clean the house, do all the stuff that you haven't done during the week. And then at the end of the day on Saturday, I'll sit down and I'll menu plan for the next week.
Oh my God.
Which will be based around
on the same
what
cloth.
I'm working on. So if I've got 4 recipes next week that I'm doing for clients, if they'll work in amongst dinner plans, awesome balls, because I don't want to be cooking twice. Yeah. Sometimes it just doesn't work. Do you know what I mean? And that's how I'll base my menu, and then I'll just build in around that. And then I grocery shop on Sundays, meal prep anything that I want prepped up in advance, so that Monday morning I'm organised and done. So yeah, I'm
exactly the same.
Obsessive.
No, it's like, okay, well, maybe for some they think that, but
I can't. On the weeks when I haven't done it, I'm like an astronaut in space, like with his hose thing cut. I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing, where I'm going. I don't even know what I'm having for tea tonight. Oh, yeah.
No, I'm the same, I think. And to that, I also then think, okay, I'm just going to do a spaghetti, but like I'll double it and I'm going to freeze half of it, because, then on those days that I'm out or doing whatever, whether it be a weekday or a week, I'm like, that's okay. I've got like some sauce in the freezer. I'll just, defrost that. It's easy for me.
Yeah.
I think that's
exactly the same.
I feel like, some people say, oh, well, you meal planners, like I don't cook as frequent as you. It's like, you don't have to, it's really about just thinking and then utilizing. Well, if you
though, when people say that, because they still eat freaking dinner every night, don't they?
Well, maybe, I've heard sometimes like they'll go to say their mum's on a Monday night, then they'll cook maybe a Tuesday.
So you don't meal plan for that? Sorry.
Yeah,
I'm like,
harsh. Bitch. No.
Yeah. I've got a bitch on today. I've got a 4th cup of coffee. Let it go.
But it's true. And then just utilize your pantry. Keep shit simple. Keep shit easy. And most of the time, if you've got little kids, there's only like 3 meals anyway they'll eat. But it's about
just chalkboard in the kitchen that I write the menu on.
Yeah.
I get up in the morning, I'm having my breakfast and whatnot. I look at the menu, I'm like, oh, take chicken breasts out of the freezer. Done. It's not getting to 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm like, oh, I haven't got anything out of the freezer. Now I've got to do it. For me, I get that what works for me might not work for everybody, but for me, it just makes everything simpler. It's not at all complicated.
I think, and it's 1 hour, if that, to meal plan and do a grocery list, and it's easy. Yeah. There's like no wastage.
You've got to think about what you're going to cook at some point in time. Why not do it all at once in 1 hour and be organised than trying to do it randomly in dribs and drabs throughout the week and never know what you're doing? No, thank you.
And I think also when you sometimes during the week I'm like, oh, I haven't made that for a while. I'll write it on I've got a magnet, blackboard magnet on the fridge. I'll either put it in there or in my phone, whatever. Because sometimes I'll have an idea, like when I'm having, like, seeing a friend or speaking to her, and I'll put it there. So when I sit down, when I sit down, I'm like, I pull it out. I'm like, oh yes, I haven't done that, for a while.
I think you can still, even people like us, you get stuck in that rut where you've got your go-tos, and sometimes it's easy to do, but then you're like, oh my God, I think we've eaten the same half a dozen meals over and over again in variations for the last month. It's time to, oh, I forgot that I used to make that, and it's so good. Yeah, it's easy to do. It doesn't matter who you are.
Your cookbook.
Even kitchen legends like us. Yes, my cookbook, that one.
That's there if anyone's watching the video. Edible. Tell us a little bit, like, about, did you just go, how did you approach writing this cookbook? Was it just very much like random, or was it, no, I want to just focus on this? And
that was, so for my 18th birthday, my sister sent me, and I've still got it, this book. I was living interstate. I was so desperately homesick, but pretending that I wasn't, because I was super cool living in another state, look at me. So she sent me this book, and it was all handwritten, and it was just like random recipes, like, such and such as scones, and it had photos of my cat that I'd left at home stuck in it, and just little stickers, and it was, and I still got it, and I don't really cook anything out of it, but it was to bring those people, and I wasn't really cooking back then, let's be honest, but to bring those people into my life like she did at that time, just felt so, and so it was almost the beginning of, like, we've all got, so Edible Heirlooms, which is the book, it's a collection of recipes. It's my recipes, it's family recipes, it's recipes from friends, other foodies. If I was doing it again now, I'd contact you and I'd be like, Mary Lynn.
I'd be like,
what's your recipe? And everybody, like, I love the fact that when I talk to people about it, they'd be like, oh, I'm not a cook. Like, I don't do that. I don't have a recipe. I don't. And then about 10 minutes, they'd be like, oh, look, there are those biscuits that I always make for my kids on their first day of school. I'd be like, that's your recipe. It's the memory. So every recipe in the book, it's got that little story with it. My grandmother made scones when we used to go visit, and it's in the front of the book. And they were freaking amazing. They were yellow and buttery and so good. And then she passed away. And I can remember, like, asking my dad and his sisters, and they're like, no, it's just scones. It wasn't anything. And I thought, was it? Like, was it? Because I don't remember it that way. Is it just because I was a kid and it was such a treat for me that they tasted so amazing? Or did she have a secret? I won't know because I don't have that recipe. And that was kind of where I started obsessively collecting recipes from people. So it's a collection of, it was really important to me that it was done the way it was done, like hardcover. And, if I had to do it again now, I'd probably do it differently. But to this day, my proudest and probably most emotional moment was my grandmother is now 100. She lives in another state, and my son was over visiting, and he went to visit her, and he had one of the advanced copies of the book. And to see Gran holding the book with recipe, I was like, I'm happy now. Yes, I did. I just cried. I literally sat and cried like a baby. It was just, and that, to me, that's what it was about. So
who did you feature in there? Like, whose recipes? Was it just family and close friends?
No,
or
family, friends. There's some foodies from around Australia. You know, a lot of them a lot more in the healthy food space because that's what I was doing back then. So Scott Gooding has a recipe in there. Sally O'Neill, if anybody knows of her. Come on, who else? Oh my God, I've completely forgotten names now. I'm looking at my cookbooks because I know I've got a lot of them. Lee Holmes.
Beautiful.
Put one in there as well. And a couple from like, you know, overseas. It was just, yeah.
Love
it
that.
was just Fat Pig Farm. She's got a name. Fat Pig Farm. Just Sally. Oh my God, now I've gone. Sounds really awful because I'm going to go Matthew Evans' wife, and that just sounds so rude. But I've completely blanked on her name. You're just going to have to edit all this out now.
Like I know, yeah, I've got it. I'm so terrible with names.
I've got a book on either side of me, but they're both just out of reach.
Let's see.
But her recipe is
nice.
amazing.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah, I'm really proud of it. And I had to self-publish, and that was just
big thing, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, it really is. It's such a learning curve. Yeah, but I'm really proud of it.
No, you should be, and I think it's a major accomplishment, and it's that nice feeling. Oh, thank you. I'd love one, but I think that's good. So then, how did you? Because you also have like a membership as well, where you have.
I do. Yes, my business of edible images.
I know. You know what I love when I speak to guests is hearing how everything just unfolds. Like you've gone from, you know, just cooking to fill up something in your meals, and then
empty life.
Then getting, okay, we're gonna make it a bit nicer than that. But and then being approached, you know, by another blogger. To then being in magazines, front cover magazines to this day, having a cookbook with all these people, how do you even meet them? And then now having a membership, like, how did this come about? Was it people just constantly reaching out to you, being like, hey, can you help me?
Yeah, a little bit. So Lee Holmes, I'm going to name drop here, but that's
okay. Yeah, for gold. Yeah.
When I was first starting out, when I first got the idea that maybe I could turn this into some kind of, I wanted to learn. Like I knew that I could take a good photo, but I didn't know what else is involved. What else is involved from, you know, so I just literally went online and I got a couple of my photos that I thought were halfway decent. And I contacted all of these. I literally went through my cookbook collections, you know, and I was just contacting these people going, hey, you know, fledgling food photographer, I really want to learn how to do stuff. Do you have a recipe that I could photograph? You know, send me the recipe, send me the brief, you know, for free. You know, and a lot of them took me up on it because I wanted to learn how to do it, what's involved. And Lee was lovely. And she actually came back to me at a later date and gave me work. Scott Gooding, I did, he has a range of meals. I did the packaging for them. So I did the photographs of the meals and stuff for that. So a lot of it was it's just, you know, people talk about Instagram and places like that being unfriendly. I don't find that. There's such a community of us in places like that. I don't think I do too. You can't get it somewhere else. So a lot of it was just that, the back and forth throughout the years, you know, and good luck.
Is it though? Is it?
It feels like it sometimes. Yeah. Hard work.
It's work. And I think that, you know what it is? You put yourself out there.
Yeah, I do now.
No, but by just reaching out to people who have cookbooks and stuff. Definitely. A lot of people don't do that. We just hide behind, you know, our account. And it's not out of any disrespect or anything like that, because but you know, you just put yourself out there, you reach out. I love DMs. I'm so open to DMs. I feel like that's where that for me, that's where I connect with people. But definitely so many times I've reached out to people and they don't share, and that's fine, each to their own. And I don't want anyone to I think that just reaching out to people like yourself, I always, for the podcast, worst case scenario, people don't answer that.
They know. Yeah. And I think it's one of the things that I teach in my group is how to reach out, you know, and you're right. It's never always going to work, you know, but if you know, we talk about how you style a photo, how you read the light, how you use your camera, how you set up a shot so it looks a particular way, You know, we talk about pricing, we talk about pitching to clients, we talk about branding. You know, we literally just have the best time. And I think it's important that when I'm doing this stuff, I don't pretend I've got all the answers. You know, I don't go on there like some almighty guru. I love my group. Like, we've got a private Facebook group and we get together once a week on Zoom as well, just as a big
Monday
we
night.
call it drinks and nibbles, but secretly we call it shits and giggles, because it's just fun. We have so much fun. But also we talk about business. You know, we talk about, you know, I'm pitching to this week and I'm nervous about this, or I've got a recipe brief coming up and I've got no fucking idea. You know, it's really great to have a safe space. And I'm going to sound really wanky, it's the community that I wished I had.
Yes.
When I was starting, you know, somewhere, because I joined so many Facebook groups and things like that about food photography, and everybody's so
secretive.
Chest, you know, it's like, oh yes, and I get it. It's a hard industry.
Yeah,
it's hard.
You know, and
I talk about
always open to stuff like that. Even like, I think I was in a group, I don't know, someone wanted to start a podcast. I'm like, just go on Anchor. It's easy. It's like, I don't, yes, like there's other platforms that are better, and you know, you can go hire a studio and buy $1,000 mic, or you can just do it on Anchor and record on Zoom or yourself in the kitchen or whatever, and just not make it into something that's not going to move the needle forward. You know?
Then when you're getting 1 million downloads every week, then you can go and do the other stuff. But it's not necessary. Like, I can still remember, and I think it was Recipe 10 Eats, seeing a behind the scenes shot of her with a board sitting on a milk crate with a tripod over the top of it. And I was like, holy what? Like, the concept, like in the early days, the concept that you didn't need a full Donna Hay style studio to get these amazing photos blew my mind. You know, which is like, we share a lot of behind the scenes shots and things like that in the groups and stuff, because it's important for people to see that if you've got these skills and you've got this basic knowledge, you don't need all of that. You don't, you know, if you've got a meter by meter space that you can pop a board down on, you can take a photo.
Yeah.
And it can look freaking good.
And it's more relatable as well. It's showing me.
Yeah.
I used to, we have a granny flat in like at the back of our house.
Oh, no.
And we never rented it out because anyway, I just didn't have a private entry, and I don't want people in my house. We use the room as an office, but I always just kind of just dumped whatever in the other one. I never treated it. And the inside of my kitchen is puny. Like, I'm talking, my girlfriend's unit has a bigger kitchen, and I don't know, I didn't have a dishwasher in there, and I was getting the shits, and I just thought to myself, screw it, go and, you know, make the granny flat like your studio space. And I've got a nice window with lighting. But prior to that, I was literally taking photos. I've got like I think it's social something. They've got the vinyl, the backdrops. I'd put that on the floor with my sneakers on each side to hold it down.
Oh, blue tack. Blue tack's better.
Blue tack, well, because my back veranda floor was dirty, so it wouldn't even fucking.
Oh, okay.
But yeah,
never mind the blue tack.
Yeah, and I think that the vinyl was a bit too thick for the blue tack. But yes, so I just put it down, just quick, easy, quick, boom, take the photo, whatever. I'd pack everything, wash quickly, run, get the kids from school, come back, feed them, and, you know, at night, just edit the photo quickly on Visco, and just like, I'm just like, you make it work. Just make it work. But it's also,
but the thing is, nobody going back and looking at those photos, well, they might see that you've changed and evolved and improved. Nobody's going to look at that photo and go, oh, she took that on a back veranda with boots on the sides. And look, we're the only ones who know that.
I know.
You know?
Yeah. And just saying that, I don't know, I think just being more personable and relatable online is, for me, where
done is better than perfect. You know?
Speaking from a perfectionist, like myself.
Speaking from a perfectionist, because once upon a time I didn't put anything out. And that whole, you know, do what fills you with, God, I sound so wanky. What fills you with joy. You know, like for a long time there on socials and things like that, everything I wrote, all my captions, it was all so sanitized because, you know, God forbid that you, and now these days, like my captions are still reasonably tame.
Yeah.
But my stories, I just have the best time in my stories. It's all true crime and feminist bullshit and, you know, it's and ridiculous, really bad humor. Like you've got to let yourself be you, because that's the person that people are connecting with. Like they love your photos, but they're connecting with you.
Yeah. And now like it's all a lot of video content, which you love not.
It's probably the perfectionist in me.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I want it to be perfect, but perfect video is not what's.
No.
I struggle a lot. I'm like, you know what? Maybe that's just not me.
Oh,
you know, if you want somebody to teach you how to do video, go somewhere else.
I also think like just with the video, I think the ones that I get more engagement with, and I'm not, you know, measuring that by likes and all that kind of shit, but more where people actually message me and say, I made it. Oh my God, great idea.
Yeah.
To me, that's
I think for us, that's the important thing.
Yeah. It's just like me hovering over freaking some garlic bulbs and being like, hey guys, mince this in a processor with salt and oil, and you know, and they're like, oh my gosh, like not this, you know, I love watching people in the process, but it takes so much time as well.
And I think that's one of my problems is I'll be halfway through doing something, I'll be like, oh shit, should have started recording that. Like this is something that because I don't think in video, you know, before I even start cooking something in my head, I've already styled it. You know what I mean? I'm not thinking video. I'm already thinking end product. Oh my God, I can't wait to get this cooked so I can style it.
Just film it. Just film the end product after you snapped it.
You say that.
It's habit formation.
Okay. Yes, Mum. Sorry, Mum. I'll try harder, Mum.
You're actually speaking to your mum. She'll be listening to the show.
Yeah. Oh, I don't think she will. Hey, Mum. Love you.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, you're welcome.
Where can people find you?
Okay, so best place is my website, NaomiShermanFoodCreative.com, or on Instagram, NaomiSherman_foodcreative. I'm on Facebook too, but let's be clear, I have much more fun on Instagram.
I love the stories. That's what I'm there for, and TikTok doesn't have that. That's why I feel like I'm like, yeah, I'm more IG. Oh, and before I let you go, yes, I always ask a guest, could you please give me, and I'm gonna put it in the show notes, but your go-to CBF recipe when you are like, tell me.
Legit, I made this last night.
Did you?
Yeah, I did, and you're going to be horrified. Sorry. It's my chicken gnocchi tray bake.
Tell me.
It's not really a tray. It's like it's just chicken thigh, red onion, gnocchi from the supermarket.
Sorry, I forgive you.
Passata, or whatever you want, like tin tomatoes if you want, but I love a good passata. Brown off the chicken, chuck a bit of garlic, chuck the onion in, chuck the gnocchi in so the whole thing's in like an oven-proof pan. I use like a big shallow French oven. Chuck the gnocchi in, let it cook for a few minutes, chuck the passata in. I have some basil as well that goes in there. Chuck it in the oven, 200 degrees for about 10 minutes. Doesn't take long because you've already half cooked everything, and the gnocchi's kind of bubbling away in the passata. Pull it out, chuck a couple of handfuls of baby spinach, or I've just got spinach out of the garden, and some mozzarella on top in for another 10 minutes. It's so good.
I have to make it.
So like hands on, it's like a couple of minutes. You know what I mean? It's not it, and it comes out. It's so yummy and filling and delicious, and it just feels like comfort food that you've spent hours making, but you really haven't. And I just keep like some mozzarella and some gnocchi and stuff just in the freezer. You can just pull it out and start. Yep. Done.
That's what I always say with the gnocchi. It's like, I mean, I make predominantly ricotta gnocchi. It's easier and quicker. But
I make predominantly supermarket.
Shut up.
Sorry.
Still make it look
I'll
great.
make yours. Okay. Yeah.
You know, I always make a big batch, and then I'll freeze them. And
I've never made gnocchi.
Well, you'll have to come to one of my gnocchi cooking classes that I'm going to do.
Well, okay then.
We'll make it together.
You can come and join my membership, and we'll take beautiful photos of your gnocchi together.
Not sure it's a fair trade-off.
I think that's very fair.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on.
You are welcome. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Hang on. I'm gonna end the call, but hang on because I want to chat more anyway.
Okay. Fine.